Hello, welcome back. Or if you happen to be new, my name is Delian. This is the channel where we explore becoming the main character of our own lives, which I believe we're all here to do. And this is the Enneagram series where I break down every type and what I believe their journey is towards transformation. So if this kind of content is interesting to you, helpful, or valuable in any way, I would love if you would like, subscribe, or comment. I live for the comments. Tell me about your experience with your Enneagram type, what you would nuance with what I'm saying. This is essentially what I feel like a living document of a channel where we get to explore together. So I can't wait to see you in the comments, and let's go ahead and start. All right, Enneagram 4's. I am so excited about this. Okay. As I've been sharing a little bit, I am basing this process around the idea of what a character's transformation arc looks like in a story and what information we need to have in order to be able to do that effectively. And I was just sharing this with someone this morning about how I actually think it's easier to understand the transformation journey of an Enneagram type through characters versus people in real life, because in real life we go through cycles. It's very hard to be able to pinpoint when the full shift or transformation, if you will, actually occurs. And usually it occurs in, like I said, cycles versus just one story. Here it is, here you go. You can see it a bit more cleanly through characters and stories. And so that's why I really like using characters as a way to be able to better understand how we operate as our type, and then very specifically how we go from the wounded narrative to the healed narrative of our Enneagram journey. So with all of that, that's my little spiel. With that, when developing a character for a story, the first question that needs to be asked is, what does this character want? And we can ask this of, what does an Enneagram 4 want? They want to be deeply seen, fully understood, to know who they are on like a soul level, and to be known for who they are, that what their soul is. And this leads to a lot of, well, we'll get down into like what the desires are, but you can see how the want drives the story forward. In this series, Enneagram 4s are the first withdrawn type I'm talking about. And one of my theories is that the withdrawn stance actually, we have a hard time creating stories around the withdrawn types, because a story requires momentum and action. I think that a lot of 4 stories that we see, they are in their stress number of 2 for a good chunk of it, because it requires, when we move into 2 space as 4s, there's more action. And I'll break down 5s and 9s when I get to those. But I will say that I think that it's kind of difficult to find leads that are Enneagram 4s for this reason. We see a lot of Enneagram 3, 7s, and 8s, even 1s, because there's a lot of movement, a lot of momentum. All right, so there's the one, to be seen, fully understood on a soul level, and to be known for that full experience of everything that they are. If you hear sighing in the background, puppy is dreaming. And then from there, when creating a character, we need a wound, because we need this character to be flawed. Otherwise, there's no point of the transformation. And so, in fact, a lot of times we like it when we're watching a story, the messier the character is, because we are infatuated or drawn in by the before and afters, right? So what is the wound of an Enneagram 4? They believe that something essential is missing in them. They believe that they are inherently flawed and broken, which is so hard. And from that, I think we understand the vice, right? This is the worldview that they create that makes that wound make sense. And the vice of 4's is envy. This didn't make a lot of sense to me when I first got into the Enneagram and I was trying to understand my 4-ness. And for a while, I didn't believe I was a 4 because I didn't understand what envy meant. And for 4's, this is what it means. They look at everyone else, and it seems like everyone else seems to have it or have access to it that 4's don't, which means they think that everybody else doesn't have that essential thing missing, and 4's do, and we envy the ease that they seem to have to be able to live the lives that they want, to be able to essentially human through life. And because of this, everything feels to 4's like it's just a bit harder for us than for everyone else. So this is, we tend to envy the ease that other people have access to, or at least that's what we perceive. That's the narrative that I think happens around the wound of believing something is flawed or broken. Okay, I mentioned this already, but how do they go about getting what they want? 4's are in the withdrawn stance. They withdraw in order to get quote unquote proof that they are worthy of attention and affection. That they also withdraw in order to go find the answers that could solve that brokenness inside of them. And this showcases, so the withdrawn stances have the action last. So we have thinking, we have feeling, and we have action as human beings, right? And if you are in the withdrawn stance, 4, 5s, and 9s, your access to action is the furthest away. And this is why I think it's a bit tricky at times to have characters that are 4, 5s, and 9s, unless they are heavily in their intelligence center, and that's like really needed for the storyline. So for instance, Sherlock Holmes, what does he do? He is using his head center all the time. But even he, in those stories as a 5, especially the Benedict Cumberbatch versions and the book versions, I think are 5s. Well, I don't think that Robert Downey Jr. is a 5. I think he's a 3, and he plays Sherlock Holmes as a 3. But that is my point, right? We tend to want a lot of movement in stories. We want the protagonist to be going after things and taking action, not having things happening to them, right? And so you can see how this is an issue for us withdrawn types in our own lives, is that in order to step into being that main character of our own lives, we have to actually take action towards what we want. So again, 4's withdraw. They go internal to go and see how they can figure out everything inside of them so that they can fix that broken thing. All right, so what is an Enneagram 4's fear? We need a character to have a good fear. Again, we need them to overcome their fear and their wound in order to transform. And you'll hear how this fear comes from the wound. They fear being ordinary and insignificant. They fear being unknown, having made no impact. Especially, they want to impact the world from that place of their deepest self, but they fear that they won't do that and therefore will be insignificant, that they won't be seen, they won't be fully seen for who they truly are. And that's the 4's fear. And truly, I think that most stories we see with 4's, this is what's propelling them until they go through that transformation process. Okay, their intelligence center, so how they naturally move through the world is through the heart center, the bonding center. They are naturally aware of it's not just the emotions of everyone. They're definitely aware of their own emotions for the most part, but they are aware of who's connected to who, how is everyone getting along or not getting along, how do people see me, how do I see people. There's a lot of naturally being able to say, this is the dynamic of people and how they're connecting with one another. Yeah, that's what I gotta say about that. Okay, so what is their strategy? Every character has a strategy about how they're going to to overcome their fears and handle their wound. Like, this is what they believe is going to solve all of their problems. And for 4's, what they decide is that they're going to cultivate their own uniqueness and become so unique that they are unmistakable, that they will be seen. And with that, they also dwell in this deep longing. And this is where we start seeing the melancholy, I think, start to come up, this sense of like the eternal sadness that 4's can have. And this is happening because they're in that space of comparing themselves to others. I think that 4's believe that if they keep comparing, that they'll find the answer of their own brokenness and be able to like solve it. But this strategy often leads to more inaction, except for that part where they're going to become so unique and different that they'll be seen, that this is how they'll get seen. And so I think this is where, if 4's start masking, this is that area. Instead of being their true selves, they're going to showcase some unique quality that gets them a reaction and attention, but it's not oftentimes truly who they are. It's not coming from a place of serenity or calmness. Okay, so there's your character. They're set up. They have all of these difficulties inside of themselves, right? And what happens? What is the transformation that they're going to go through? So instead of the wound, they're going to step into the exact opposite narrative. So the wound is something essential is missing in me. I am flawed. I am broken. The healing process is moving into the narrative of I am whole just as I am. I don't have to become something significant to be worthy of love and belonging. This is not easy work. There's a reason Act 2 in books and stories is like difficult and long, and it's because it does not happen overnight. This process takes work, it takes diligence, it takes strength training. But as they go through this process, this is when they begin to experience the virtue state, which is equanimity for 4's. This is when they have mental and emotional calmness. There's an evenness inside of themselves. They are no longer subject to the massive emotional waves that occur inside of a 4. Instead, they are able to hold on to that North Star of this narrative of I am whole just as I am. And even when those big waves come, they don't have to, they can ride, it's more like they can ride on top of them or through them and move through them versus being stuck in an endless cycle of essentially feeling like they're drowning in their emotions, not to be melodramatic. So yes, there's a kind of composure. They step into this place of agency and power. And this shift allows them to begin creating and connecting from a sense of fullness instead of deficiency. Which sounds lovely. And like I was saying at the beginning, I don't believe as humans that we just do this once and then we're there. We are cyclical creatures, right? We do not have one book in our series. Or yeah, like we don't have one book to encompass our lives. We have a series of books. Yes, hopefully we transform in new ways with every our sequel. Is that what it is? Yeah, like with every new book that gets added to the series of our lives, we don't want to get stuck in one book, right? And most of us don't, right? We learn things, we transform, and the transformations become, I just want to say more every time. But I really do believe that when we start truly coming after the wound narrative versus the healed narrative, this is where we can see the biggest shift. And I think this is what it means to really go through the main character journey of our own lives and stories. And this is where we start experiencing, especially for 4's, that sense of agency over our own lives, which I am clearly a big proponent of. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. I would love to hear your thoughts if you are an Enneagram 4, if you love an Enneagram 4, if you don't know anything of what I'm talking about. There are other videos that I've done going over the types, and I'm just so thankful that you're here, and I really appreciate you being not just invested in this channel, but invested in your own story and your own journey of transformation. I am so excited about it. So yeah, all right. I will see you in the next video.